with the Gamer Symphony Orchestra. Awesome! So we get to indoctrinate you. Wearing a GSO t-shirt.
Good job, Peter.
The Gamer Symphony Orchestra is a student group at the University of Maryland, just around the Beltway. We were founded in 2005. There were 6 of us at that point who said, you know what, it'd be really cool if there were an orchestra that played music from video games. At the time, there wasn't an ensemble like that at a college level, so we were the first. That doesn't necessarily mean we're the best, but we think so. Now there's 120 of us, sometimes more. We have a chorus with like, how many are 40? 30, 35, 40 people in the chorus. 35. We'll say, we'll give that. The real cool thing about GSO, going from that few people to what we are now, it's just been this immense burst in popularity over that time. When we started, nobody knew who we were. I mean, sometimes we didn't, and we were the ones showing up to rehearsals. But since then, we've collaborated with game composers like Grant Kirkhope and Jeff Knorr, and we've worked with Video Games Live. They actually have a piece that we arranged is now part of their normal rotation of songs. The real cool thing about GSO is that we sort of act as a bridge. Young people, by and large, don't go to orchestral concerts anymore at all. And so we're using video game music as the hook to get those people to come and listen to an orchestra. And at the same time, there's a lot of old people, to generalize, some old people, older, who think that video games are trivial and uninteresting and all that stuff. But we put this music into a concert hall, and they come because of that orchestral hook. So we kind of connect these people together, and the hope is that we make video game music legit, so people appreciate that it really is its own art form and is worthy of praise. Thank you.
So, for starters, just what we've seen of game music, particularly orchestral game music in society, that there's groups like Video Games Live, Play, Video Game Symphony, Distant World. There's us that, like Rob said, right now the professional symphony is somewhat of a dying industry. That whenever I go to Video Games Live, I always just make a point to ask the ushers, so how does this crowd compare to your usual? And they always say 2 things. It's a lot larger in size and a lot younger in age. That Video Games Live came to Strathmore this past spring, and it was filled up. 2 shows in 1 day. When we do our concerts, we're able to fill up the largest concert hall in Maryland. And when the School of Music puts on their concerts with 4 of the university ensembles, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Not that they aren't all excellent musicians.
Think back maybe 30 years. You will not find a person with, if you go back 30 years, you will not find someone with a cassette tape of the soundtrack to Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. Think back even maybe 10, 15 years ago, you won't find someone with a readily available CD of Super Mario 64.
In this country.
In this country. True. Now look today. There is increasing distribution in video game music soundtracks. For example, we had Shadow of the Colossus.
iTunes Store has a whole Final Fantasy soundtrack.
You'll find sheet music for Final Fantasy VII. And oftentimes soundtracks also come bundled in with special, a Skyward Sword, for example, recently.
So one thing that we don't bite very hard, unless you ask. So building off of how just more available video game music has become in the past 2-3 decades, more so in Japan than here. We're sort of late to that game. But the really cool thing is that the music, as we all know, is pretty awesome just on its own. We're now getting to the point where people who don't play video games are recognizing the same thing. There's great 2-3 years ago, after one of GSO's concerts, I got an email from a guy. And he started off his email by saying, "My wife and I are both in our 70s. We've never played a video game before. We heard about your performance on a school calendar and came as an experiment. We were this is their words, we were absolutely hooked from your first song, which was Hikari from Kingdom Hearts." So, you know, people are starting to, the momentum is really building. People who don't play video games are recognizing maybe there's something to this. So that's been a really awesome thing to see. And I think one of the main reasons for this, all right, Joel said there wasn't going to be a test, but here's the test that not great, so don't worry about it. I'm going to hum as best I can a few bars of music. Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, bum, bum. Now, if you recognize it, raise your hand.
Okay, now,
Okay.
Let's see if you actually recognize it.
Now, that was Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor. It hasn't really been a chart topper for a while. What about this one? Ba 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 ba. Recognize it? Yeah.
That's like Tupac, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, the music from these video games, that's our music. So it stands to reason why it's so much more a part of our culture than stuff that was written in the 19th century.
Hi. No. Yes. Okay. Oh, read that. Okay. Anyway, so something that I noticed and really just admire about GSO, we don't audition. A lot of musical groups do. They're trying to look for some of the most, best music because they're looking for, they're trying to pay you, but we don't pay. For some reason, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah. Okay. So a lot of people that come into GSO, they're like, hey, I haven't played my instrument since like elementary school or since middle school. Can I still join? And we're like, of course, because this is basically an opportunity for you to rekindle your love for music, and especially video game music. There's only like one music major in GSO. Two, besides me.
Oh, there's not
That's
two.
1.5.
And I really feel like, in general, when I go to schools, I'm a music ed major, a lot of the kids are not really interested in anything that I have to say. But then when I was like, hey, guess what? I conduct a video game orchestra, they're all like, what? And they're all like, you're so cool. And I'm like, yes, I am. So something that I really feel like, and a lot of teachers end up coming up to me, they're like, hey, you conduct that weird orchestra, right? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, so like a lot of people go, right? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, can I get some of your music? And I'm like, sure, dude. I'll just, let me know. I don't actually know you. They're my teachers. But, yeah. But a lot of people have come up to me and asked, is there a way that, we can sort of work with you guys or get some music from you? And I think it's really important to show kids that music can be fun. And I feel like a lot of classical music, because of the sort of reputation that it has for being very strict and professional, makes it seem like it's not accessible to a younger audience. So.
Yes, and I'll also make a quick note of OC Remix and this wonderful convention that we happen to be at. OC Remix is a community that's sprung up around remixing video game music, and a part of that is orchestral video games.
Synthesized or live.
Right, synthesized or live. And here we are at MagFest. M in MagFest stands for
Music.
Stands for music. And it's first because GamFest would be a really unusual. Yeah, it's first. But we're here for 4 days just to listen to music from video games. This is more than just a passing fad. This is a lasting cultural phenomenon.
Was there a hand up? Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Please speak up and stand up.
Stand up, really?
Go for it.
It's not going to make much of a difference. Yeah, obviously it's a special experience rather than a genre, and it's interactive, blah blah blah. We all know all that. But I just wanted to add parenthetically that in the Washington Post article that mentioned you, Rob Garner, and how you wanted timpani, it discussed how like John Williams was Tommy Tallarico's gateway drug into Beethoven. That's just I think that probably Nobuo Uematsu was my gateway drug into Mozart, and then so on and so forth.
I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, as a young kid, and I think that then all music deserves to exist as long as it doesn't murder kittens. Right. So the special experience, I think it's not that, although it's in a way pop music because it has widespread appeal that's associated with something, much like Star Wars. I don't think that means it hurts music at all. I don't, and in no way does it hurt anyone's interest in studying music by itself.
I think the fact that it is pop music in a broad sense of the meaning, and yet it's still good.
We're snobs.
I'm being facetious, but you make a really good point. How video game music is the gateway drug in a positive way for all other types of music, and as Kira mentioned, that's what's getting kids in music programs in school actually interested in the instruments they're playing. So that's pretty darn awesome.
That actually leads us into a good one. Then just why do we enjoy all this stuff so much? How does
Excellent
it?
segue.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm in the orchestra. I'm involved a lot with the arrangement process. So when I'm one of the first people to hear the music that comes through us. And for me, I sit down and listen to the music, and I receive it as MIDI file and sheet music. And I sit there and listen to it and go, wow, this is going to be really good. But then every once in a while, I get one that crosses my screen. Like our recent Pokemon arrangement. And I sat there. Normally I'll take notes on it, and critique it. I just sat there for the first run through and went, I remember this. I really remember this. Like, this is fantastic. Wow, I remember this. I remember that this was what was playing when I caught that Clefairy. It's really? Hey, don't nod your head.
Metronome.
Clefairy used to have
We all die.
It's relevant, me sitting here telling you this story, you all can relate to it. You all can say, yeah, I remember that music as well. It's really fantastic, and it really does. It's the soundtrack of our childhood. Is anybody?
So we all feel the same way. That makes you feel better.
Oh, good. Okay, I was just kind of worried.
We all feel that.
But a big thing about it though is that when I'm sitting there listening to it, I do also get a lot of arrangements that are just for literal transcriptions of the music, and that's fine. It's the music is really fantastic. A lot of the music, a lot of the really memorable music has these themes that when you listen to it, you just go, I know this song. I know what video game this is from. But it's also a chance to take the music and just reimagine it. It's like making it your own. And that's something that I really love about video game music, and I think this is something that should continue. We have our own arrangements of Mega Man and Super Mario themes that have been redone as jazz pieces, as rock operas. We actually have one coming up that will very likely be played. That is just a straight up like 3-piece opera. It's really kind of cool just being able to see these sorts of reimaginings of things that you sit there and it started off as 8-bit and 32-bit music, and you sit there and it's lots of beeps and bleeps and stuff like that. But hearing it played again, as a jazz piece, with the saxophone, playing and wailing over the top, it really sounds nice, and it's nice to see people taking it and making it their own.
For those chiptune lovers in our audience, beeps and bleeps are just as legit. Throw that out there. Just as much music as orchestra. I feel like this is a natural extension of what people call Web 2.0. And if you're in any college level English classes, you can sort of drop that one in there and get the smart people look. Yeah, Web 2.0. The teacher will love you.
But nobody else.
What it is, I'm What it is interaction with existing content. So there's this idea of remixing existing music to make new music. And I think that our culture, gamer culture or nerd culture, whatever you want to call it, has a high media literacy, and remixing, reimagining a song has the same cultural payload as creating a new song. It's just as important, it's just as exciting, it's just as relevant. So this is a natural extension of what people already do. We make a remix, we put it on YouTube, everyone listens to it, everyone likes it. Well, we just do this with a live audience in front of everybody in a single concert hall. It allows people who don't normally crawl YouTube to get access to this kind of idea, this kind of music, which is really good. It's a natural extension of that.
The thing about video game music is it's primarily background music, mood music, right? So for the most part, the regular person will probably just pass it off as such. It's just background music, just mood music. But as said before, there are themes in there, pieces, melodic pieces, just something that speaks to the heart. Now, we're taking this music, which you would adjust background music. We're bringing it to the foreground, making it an orchestral piece, making it something to be performed and to be focused on. And this has historical precedent, all the way back to like a lot of the great orchestral pieces that are played in concerts by big symphonic orchestras. They were actually originally incidental music for plays. If anyone has ever heard of the L'Arlésienne Suite by Bizet?
Light of the Valkyrie.
Light of the Valkyrie is intermission music for by Wagner. I'm a Wagner person. And even now, today, you'll hear symphony orchestras playing the music from Star Wars, and Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings score. He goes around the world with symphony orchestras and plays it as a concert.
So, right. So
that's how wowed he is by that fact.
Joe was talking about how music speaks to all of us in a very, heartstring tugging kind of way because it's part of our lives in a very large way. And by extracting the music from the games and performing it in front of a crowd, not only are we taking the music from the background and making it the foreground. When you play video games at home, you can sit in front of the television with maybe 3 or 4 people, depending on if you have a Wii, a lot of Wiimotes and stuff like that. If you're in the LAN or MMORPG, you might be in a guild with 1, 2 dozen people, something like that. But the concerts allow us, in a broad sense, to rub shoulders with, in at least the case of our own shows, more than 1,100 people who've all gone through this stuff. So when that song floats through the ether and bounces off your eardrums, you don't even have to say anything to the people next to you in the front row, in the nosebleeds. You all have a very deep connection to the tunes, which is something that really sets video game music apart from pretty much everything else you might hear in a concert hall these days. So that just speaks to its growth, especially with the prominence of more of these types of groups and performances.
I remember at my first GSO concert, actually, when in high school, some of my friends, and when the first piece played, we just turned to each other and smiled. We recognized the piece and we were like, we're in the right place. We're amongst friends. This is just incredible. Just the little nonverbal wow that just goes on when you hear all the music.
You can escape the judgment of your youth here. You're among friends. It's all right.
And one thing we really want to touch on is how does this affect us? And when I say us, I mean everyone here in the panel, gamers, people who enjoy video game music. What does the increasing popularity of game music mean? Well, in short, it's actually very good, because if a game company on the business side, if they release a soundtrack and they see that it sells really well, so the Final Fantasy soundtrack, when they release the first one, they see that it generates $1 million in revenue. That's just a hypothetical number. That it would be stupid of them. It'd be very stupid of them not to recognize that source of revenue. And then the next time they release the game, you can be sure that they're going to release another soundtrack because it's a source of revenue. And while they're developing the soundtrack, they're going to be putting more effort into it. Whether or not it ends up being better, that's up to interpretation and personal preference, but they're going to be paying more attention to it and putting more effort into it because they recognize it as a source of revenue and it's an asset to them. And if video game music becomes a really popular genre, there's going to be competition. Therein, all different soundtracks become inherently better because they're competing with each other. And that means more music and better music for us.
How many of you have wanted to be musicians at some point in your life? Like professional musicians? Okay, how many of you were told you're not going to make any money? Yeah? You're not going to make any money being a musician, I know from personal experience. But, okay. But anyway, my point is, I feel like I go and talk to a lot of people, you know, in whatever ensemble I'm in, and I'm like, hey, you should join, you know, this orchestra. Does it pay? No, it's just fun. It's like, well, I'm sorry, I need to feed, you know, my family if they have one, and I need to have a job. You know, and I feel like a lot of people are scared of joining the whole video game music, you know, industry because they're like, well, I'm not going to make any money. And I think that if we sort of legitimize it more and make it, you know, show, hey, this is a source of revenue for you, you can really get into it. And I know a lot of people that I've met, you know, including myself, who really would like to get into, you know, composing video game music. I know Chris really likes doing it, but he has a job. You know, he has to go and work to make money so he can eat. And, you know, I have to do the same thing too. I'm a delivery driver, for God's sake. So, just really legitimizing it and making it so, you know, the industry says, wait a minute, we need composers, we need instrumentalists to play for the soundtrack, we need more people. I think that'll really help, you know, just getting that fear out of the system.
As all this music gets performed in concert halls, it's putting the spotlight not just on the notes, but on the person who made those notes. And as these things get more popular, that only serves to benefit all of us because the audience is getting larger and larger. People have money and like giving it away to things they like. So it's good, all good things.
And what that will do is to produce live orchestral music for your soundtrack, you need someone with those skills. Not everybody can do it. Not everyone who's currently creating video game music has that subset of skills to create a live soundtrack and work with musicians. So it creates demand for those positions that have been told they're not going to get any money.
It's the next one down.
Thank you.
The thing about this legitimacy is that it has been proven that you can make a name for yourself out in this industry. I mean, how many of us here are here for Nobuo Uematsu? I mean, really. What's the main reason? Exactly. He's known throughout the world because he's composed video games.
Baba Yasu.
Baba Yasu winning the Emmy and stuff like that. I mean.
So, and another reason that we should all care is we're actually creating new media. Like I said before, these remixes have the same cultural payload as creating a new song. We're creating new experiences and a new piece of our culture at these concerts. When a new arrangement is first unveiled, it could be an epic retelling of a simple story. Like you could take the Mario story and turn it into a 40-minute epic, full choir, and you could completely create some new material which furthers our culture. Take the Proto Men, for example. Proto Men have taken the Mega Man story, which is not terribly fleshed out, got about as much meat on it as a chicken McNugget. But they have taken that and created an entirely new narrative that is cherished by thousands and thousands of people. You're creating history when you go to these concerts. This is a new aspect of the story, so you're watching a piece of history unfold right in front of you, however small it may be.
this is how music evolves, a readaptation of older themes. Think of the earliest classical pieces were merely just resettings or recompositions of church music.
And just personally, is that everyone in the GSO and everyone who's ever actually been to a video game music concert, that you start to just hear things differently when you go back and play the game. You hear it in a whole new light. That I actually, after going to a GSO concert in high school, several of my friends and I actually go down to GSO at our high school, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that that day, my whole life, just a whirlwind. Just things really changed, and it's all for the better. That I wouldn't be here today, obviously, if not for GSO. That just so many different things, so many different experiences, so many different friends, all because of game music and orchestral game music therein. And just making a difference that you never know when it's going to end up being something really major.
I feel like basically, when I was young, I swore to never play a video game again because one of my friends at my birthday party stole my Pokemon, Game Boy, everything, and all my presents in her sleeping bag. And my mom was like, "Here, you can't have friends anymore." And I was like, "Oh my God." Okay, so with that being said, I can't stand video games. I hate video games. I come and I'm like, "Oh, there's an orchestra." I don't have any friends because of my mom, obviously, but I need to make some friends. I'm going to join this weird orchestra. No, I'm just kidding. And I was like, "Wow, these guys are such nerds. I love it." So I decided to join, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And the music, I was like, "This isn't bad." And as I listened to more, I was like, "This is so awesome." And because of that, we've been talking about, gamer, and it's great for your soul. But I didn't have that experience. I went up to an arranger, and I was like, "So you're going to make the keyboard do this?" And they're like, "No, it's an orchestra. We can't have synthesizers doing all the work for us." And I was like, "Oh, so that's the point of this thing." And you're wondering why I'm a conductor now. But, yeah, I have my moments. But I feel like a lot of people that weren't exposed to that or had a traumatic experience like me can use GSO to sort of rekindle this interest in, wait, why are people spending 12 hours in, drinking Red Bull all night to play Skyrim or something? Why is this happening? Okay.
A whole nother panel.
Are we done?
Yeah, basically, I apologize. We went over the promised 20 minutes, but this is just stuff. The website, email address if you guys want to learn about our next concerts. We have a table in the marketplace. We're not actually selling anything. If you guys just want to talk.
Or listen to our music, we're playing it there.
Yeah, follow the music. And we actually are going to be having a presentation in the Jam Space.
More than just a presentation, we have a small contingent.
We have a small contingent of specially trained assassins who are right. They are singers trained in the art of ninjutsu, who will be performing a super secret song in Jam Space tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Saturday, 2 o'clock in Jam
It's Freebird, isn't it?
It's not Freebird. But it is something that you might recognize if you were into the Final Fantasy series. So our patron saint, who will be arriving shortly, might recognize it too. That's the little. I'm gonna put this down there. Hey Kyle, you spell it.